So this morning, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 6. We are in the Sermon on the Mount. We're just kind of walking through this together as a church body, and we're looking at the words of Jesus. And you just can't go wrong with the words of Jesus, okay? So this is good stuff that we're walking through. And we're going to start in verse 19, and this is week 9 of this series, okay? We're going to have one more week, and then we're going to have our gospel brunch, and then we're on into Christmas, all right? So we have one more week of this together, and then we'll probably pick it up later. So this is Jesus talking to his disciples. Just kind of remind you, he's pulled his disciples up on this mountain. In fact, you can go to the very mountain today and you can kind of see what they saw. In fact, if you just Google it, you'll see this beautiful view of this hillside where Jesus has pulled his disciples up and he begins to talk to them about, dun, 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 money and possessions. Oh, great. Now we're here on Sunday, and the pastor's talking about money and possessions. Well, I'm talking about it because Jesus talked about money and possessions. In fact, it's a common theme in the Bible. There are over 2,000 verses in the Bible between the Old Testament and the New Testament that deal with our money and our possessions. Okay, so it's a theme throughout the entire Bible. Jesus, about 15% of his recorded teachings in the Gospels actually refer to money and possessions. So this is a common theme in any church that wants to be faithful to teaching the Bible will have to teach on money. You almost have to intentionally avoid it. Okay, so I don't want to make you uncomfortable. These are the words of Jesus, and I just want to remind you that Jesus is leading us into life. I mean, his way is life. He has life for us. He has abundant life for us. And so we actually experience his abundant life as we begin to yield to his leadership in our life, all right? So it's so good what he's going to teach us today. As we look at this, I just want to remind you that we are purposed to be a generous church. Like that's a part of our value system, our vision for our church. We are purposed to be generous. In fact, the first 10% of everything that comes into the offerings, the tithes and offerings, goes out towards missions. In fact, we were just looking at our budget as we were looking for the next year, and y'all, we've made a bit of a blunder. We overgave. We gave over 11.5% away outside the walls. Like, what an amazing blunder, right? You overgive. Like, we're so into that as a church body. So this is part of who we are. And I think that people in general, if I were to ask you, do you aspire to be a generous person? I believe that every one of you would say yes. Like, that's something that's inside of us. Like, there's this what we call the Imago Dei. We're created in the image of a God who is a generous Father. He's a giver. And there's something in us. When we see generosity, we love it. It inspires us. And I think that all of us, we want to be more generous. But I think a lot of times we have two challenges. One is we don't want to give to something that is not worthy, right? When you see the person panhandling, and it's like, I'm fairly certain that if I give you cash right now, you're going to go use this on something that's actually going to hurt you. It's going to harm you. And there's a part of you that gets torn about that, right? Or you hear stories of people mishandling money or not using it for the things they say they're going to use it, and there's something in you that's like, man, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I want to be generous, but I don't want to be duped into something that's wrong. The second challenge is that I think a lot of times we just feel like we can't afford to do it. My heart is there. I just can't afford to be generous. And so if we're going to lean into becoming more generous, we need to lean into what Jesus teaches us here. He's going to talk about treasures, our treasures. And he's not telling them to not seek treasures. He's just saying to them, we're going to be tempted throughout our lives to seek the wrong kind. We're tempted throughout our lives to seek the wrong kind. And so he's going to flip our understanding of treasures as he teaches us this. And there's one other thing I just want to share before we read it. We are in a bit of a strange time and that our economy is quote unquote good. But in reality, most of us don't feel very good financially these days, right? With inflation since the pandemic, do you remember what things cost before the pandemic? Like, I go and I buy deodorant at H-E-B, and I'm like, good Lord, it's like $6 or $7 for deodorant. Like, I mean, it's worth it because I don't want to stink, but I mean, come on. And so we're in good times, and yet we don't feel so good about our finances. In the middle of good times, when you have discretionary income, right, it's easy to get sort of lured into the wrong treasures because you can afford to. And then when bad times come, when you're feeling the financial pinch of life, it's easy to fixate on the wrong kind of treasures because we can't afford them. So both having treasure and not having treasures can actually lead us to fixate on the wrong treasure. And that's the paradox of what we see in our lives. And so today, I just want to talk about Jesus' financial plan. In fact, that's the title of the message, Jesus' financial plan. And I want you to consider what he says to us as we seek to release generosity and discover real treasures. Let's start in verse 19. Matthew 6, verse 19. Here's what he says to him. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Verse 22, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. So if the light within you is darkness, how deep is that darkness? No one can serve two masters, since he either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is the word of the Lord. So just to remind you, he's been teaching on what the Father rewards. He's talked to them about not practicing their righteousness for other people to see, right? He talked about praying and giving and fasting. And he's like, hey, don't be like the hypocrites that want to put on a show and tell everybody about how great they are. Like, don't do that. In fact, I want you to do all that stuff in secret so that your Father will reward you. And then he continues this theme of like reward, but he talks to us about our treasure, and there's three sections here, and I just want to I want to focus on the first one. And in the middle of this, what I want you to see is this is so basic. Your discipleship includes your economics. Okay, your discipleship includes your economics. Jesus is teaching his disciples about how to use the worldly things that they're given. And any pastor, teacher, or preacher, or YouTube video that tells you otherwise is lying to you. Okay? You know that there's enough stuff out there that you can find exactly what you're looking for. You will find somebody out there to tell you what you want to hear. Let me just remind you, these are the words of Jesus. And he's pointing us to discipleship in economics. And I know that Satan would just love to get Christians thinking that God cares about everything else in your life except for your finances. Because it is one of the ways that he ensnares us, and he wants to stop the mission of God's people and the mission of the church. So what he wants to do is get us thinking about ourselves and our own needs and thinking really small about finances so that we're not generous and we're not fueling the mission of God across the earth. So this is so important for us, what Jesus tells us. He's teaching us how to flourish. So let's start with this first section. So he begins with this treasure part, and then he gets to the eye. And I don't know about you, but when I read the part about the eye, I'm like, did we lose our train of thought here? Like, what just happened? Like, I feel like we were talking about this, and now we're talking about that, and now we're talking about this again. So there's this middle part about the eye. Like, what in the world does that mean for us? Well, I want to remind you of another parable that Jesus told from Matthew chapter 20. It's called the parable of the vineyard, or the vineyard workers. And in the parable, there's a guy that owns a vineyard, and in the very, very early hours of the morning, he hires some workers, and he says, look, if you work for me, I'll pay you 1 denarius. And then mid-morning, he hires some more, and in lunchtime, he hires some more, in the afternoon, he hires some more, and then in the evening, he hires some more. And throughout the whole day, they all work, except some of them worked a long day, some of them worked like an hour, and they all got paid the same amount. And so at the end, they're all coming to get their pay, and they're seeing, wait a minute. I work like 10 hours, and I get a denarius, and this guy works 1 hour, and he gets a denarius. And there's this statement that he says, are you jealous because I'm generous? But in the original language, here's what it says. Is your eye bad because I am good? So Jesus, when he talks about the eye, he's talking about our vision, not like our literal eye, but like how do we see life? How do we see money and finances? How do we view generosity? And he says that if our eye is good, right, it's like this lamp, this light in our body. But if our eye is bad, like how great is that darkness in us? That word for good, this also kind of gets lost in translation. That word good means single. If your eye is single. And again, this just reminds us of this vision kind of paradigm. Have you ever seen double before? One time we decided to drive with our friends to Colorado. And then, we stayed the night on the way there. We got about halfway, and then we drove the rest of the way, and it was awesome. But on the way home, we're just like, I'm feeling strong, And me and my buddy are like, yeah, like I feel great. And so we decided, no, we're not stopping. We're going all the way back to Texas. We get in that truck, and in about 3 a.m, the lines start going like this in my eyes, right? Like I'm just like, oh, I'm seeing double. And it's very, very disorienting if you've ever seen double, right? And Jesus is talking about a singleness of vision where we would actually fixate on one thing, because whatever we fixate on is what we value. And he's saying to us, hey, we need to see things, and we need to see them rightly and not get kind of caught between the way of the world and the way of God when it comes to our money and our finances. We need a single vision that unites everything. Okay, so here's the first point for us. Jesus' financial plan corrects our vision of money and finances. It corrects our vision. And I just want you to know that Jesus loves you more than you love yourself. He loves you more than your mom or your dad loves you. He loves you more than anyone on the planet could ever love you. Like he loves you so much that he actually went to a cross for you. And when he tells you something like this, it's not because he's mean. It's because he loves you. And he doesn't want you to be deceived when it comes to your view of money and possessions. What you fixate on is what you value. Now, we could speak very broadly, and we could talk about 2 kinds of people. And I'm curious which kind you are. The first kind is the spender. The spender. Does anybody just love to spend some money? I mean, thank you, Kenna. Yep, I get to, whenever they're out of town, they're like, hey, can you get the packages off my porch, right? Because, Kenna's been shopping online. I'm like, hey, I get it. Like, I like that, right? I was raised, my mom was a spender. And I could just show you all the things in my house, like, she gave that to me, and she gave that to us, and like, I never would have bought that, but she, it's just, I love being around a spender. Spenders are fun people, right? If you're looking for a good friend, you need to find a spender and just hang out with them, okay? Because you're going to have a good time, because spenders enjoy spending money. The motto of the spender is like, hey, money is God's gift to be used, and we're just going to have some fun with this. They enjoy spending, right? They're thinking about that next thing, that next gadget, that next clothing item, the next pair of shoes, the next car, the next trip, the next experience. Oh man, I love the spenders. But then there's the other kind of people. Some of you are in this category. You're a saver. Oh, you're a saver. And you know what gives you joy? Is when you go to your online banking and the number gets higher. And you're like, yeah, look at that, come on. You get excited about that bank account going up and not down, right? And if you're married, if you're a saver that's married to a spender, that's called sanctification, okay? God puts you together just to kind of like sharpen each other and pull each other a little bit and, stress each other out. It's okay. That's how it works, right? If you're a saver, you're thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about your long-term goals or plans. You're thinking about stability and security. And you're probably the kind of person that suffers from buyer's remorse, right? You save, and then you buy the car, and then you're like, why did I do that? I don't need a car. I could walk to work, like you're just like talking yourself out of it, right? Both savers and spenders, they come at money from two different directions, but they both have the same goal. And that is to arrange for life. Right? You're seeking to secure life for yourself through money. What Jesus shows us with this single vision is that it actually is a third way of viewing money. And it's so surprising that he doesn't say, don't spend any money, or don't save anything. But he says, rather, here's what I want you to do. I want you to save and spend for what matters. Heavenly treasures. Heavenly treasures. He wants to rescue us from seeing things wrongly and thus valuing things wrongly. So his financial plan, it corrects our vision. Here's the second thing. It comes from this first part. I'll just read it from verse 19. It says, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves don't break in and steal, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And I just want to show you that word store up, that actually means to amass. To accumulate, to build it up, right? To store up, and it's this negative thing of like, don't do that here because this stuff is fleeting, it's temporary. But there is something you can store, you can amass, you can accumulate for yourself heavenly treasures. To the spender, he says to us, hey, what you buy, it's so temporary. It's fleeting. It's like the thing that your prized possession today will be probably in the trash heap tomorrow. Moth and rust destroy. And to the saver, he says to us, what you're saving is fleeting. Because thieves, they break in and they steal. And he tells us of this thing that I don't think that we can fully fathom. Like, I don't know that we can fully get it on this side of heaven, that there is a treasure that we're amassing and accumulating that's waiting for us on the other side of this life. Like, I struggle to even get that. But here's the point that I want to make. It's the second thing. Jesus' financial plan invests in what is lasting. Invest in what is lasting. When Jesus speaks of heavenly treasures, I just want to remind you, it's what we're going to celebrate as we enter the Christmas season. that the God of heaven, the second person of the Trinity, the co-eternal Son of God, he leaves the glory of the Father in heaven and he comes into human flesh. He's God incarnate. And so when Jesus talks to us about heavenly realities, he knows what he's talking about. Like, it's where he came from. It's his eternal abode. Like, when he talks to us about heavenly stuff, it's almost like the person that went on that great trip and you've never been on that trip and they're telling you about the trip and you're like, man, that sounds great, but like, I can't like really wrap my mind around what you're saying. Like, that's Jesus when it comes to heaven. And so when he talks about heavenly treasures, this is not like theory. This is not like, it's a figure of speech. No, he's saying this is real. There are real treasures for us. And it's just fascinating to me. It's like he's saying, if you could see it, if you could get a vision for what's coming next, it would revolutionize how you view your money and your possessions today. I mean, just imagine that I'm your financial planner. I'm not, I should never be your financial planner. But if I was, just imagine I'm doing it right now, okay? And I came to you, and we're looking at all your portfolio, and I'm like, I've got a product for you. And this product, it is like, I would say this is a sure bet. Okay, it is so lucrative. This thing, I mean, investors are making so much on this. Here's what I think you should do. I think you should take everything you have, literally pull out all the buckets, and I want you to put it in this product, and you will absolutely make money. It's going to generate a high yield for you. But here's the one thing. In 1 week, it all evaporates. Would you be wise to invest in that thing? No. Please don't ever do that, okay? If your financial planner tells you that, no. But this is what Jesus is saying. Look, all this stuff that you're so worried about down here, you're so fixated on, it's going to evaporate. But I have something for you. It's eternal. It's real. It's heavenly treasures. Our life here, it's a vapor. But eternal life is like eternal, unending. And Jesus isn't trying to take something from you. He's trying to get something for you. I heard a friend tell this week. He said, it's all fictitious, okay? 2 men are hired as janitors. They're both going to make minimum wage. And they're working in this big building. And there's of these 2 men, the boss pulls aside one of them. And he says, look, here's what I want you to know. If you will work this job faithfully and enthusiastically, whenever you retire, I'm guaranteeing you I'm going to give you $100 million. Guaranteed. All I need you to do is be faithful and enthusiastic right now, and at the end of it, you're going to get $100 million, okay? And so, a week later, the sewer backs up, and there's just like ankle-deep human just like mess all over the place. And one of the guys is just like cursing under his breath, mopping the floor. And the other guy's just whistling. What's the difference? The guy had a vision for something that was coming at the end of this, and it changed the way that he worked, right? He knew something's coming, and it absolutely transformed the way he was working. And this is how it works with this financial plan of Jesus, is that it changes our vision, and it shows us there's something coming that's truly remarkable, and it's something that will last. And he tells us, look, if you fixate on this thing, you'll value it. If you value it, you're going to treasure it, you're going to invest in it, and wherever you invest, that's where your heart's going to be. That's where your heart's going to be. And so this is a call to invest in what is lasting. Here's the third and last thing I want to say. This is from verse 24, the third section. He says, no one can serve 2 masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Again, Jesus, he's talking about, hey, if you're trying to do two things, it's just not going to work for you. You need one singular vision for your life. One singular vision, because you just cannot do both. It's one or the other. It's binary. There's a test, and it's got an A and a B, and there's no like C, all of the above. I love all of the above. Can I just serve God and money? That would be great. What a great way to live. No, Jesus says like there's no C. Doesn't exist. It's A or it's B. And you cannot serve both. And that word devoted can also mean enslaved. Enslaved. Here's the third thing I want to say. Jesus' financial plan truly sets us free. It sets us free. I've been hearing this term lately called lifestyle creep. And it's not talking about a creepy person's lifestyle, okay? It refers to when yesterday's luxuries become today's necessities. Right? Yesterday's luxuries become today's necessities. And what happens for us is it leads us to kind of justify overspending. Because like what was like, I like that yesterday is like, no, I need that today. I remember in college, they would bring the credit card tables out and all the guys would be there and they're like, free t-shirts, sign up for a credit card. And all of us would sign up for a credit card and get t-shirts. And that's like the dumbest thing in the world. Like, why do universities let people do that? Because the average American is carrying at least $6,500 of credit card debt. And many of us live in the bondage of debt, an endless cycle of minimum monthly payments. And why did Jesus teach on money so often? The reason why is I think that it's so easy for us to know, like, when I lusted, like, I clearly lusted. When I lied, I clearly lied. It's kind of obvious, right? But when it comes to the things of the heart, when it comes to greed and money, it's like a slippery little thing, right? It's so subtle. It creeps up. Our lifestyle creeps up. And then all of a sudden, we just need more and more and more. Jesus knew how idolatrous money could be for us. John D. Rockefeller, his fortune at the time of his lifetime, his fortune relative to the size of the U.S. economy makes him the richest American in history ever. Like maybe Elon Musk is approaching his level. I don't know. They just got the $1 trillion package. Like that sounds like a good year or a good pay package, right? I'm not getting that here at Renaissance Church, but and they asked John Rockefeller at the height of his earning, they asked him this question, how much is enough? To which he responded, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. That feels so true for our lives. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. If I asked you, what would give you a greater sense of peace in your life? A greater sense of security, satisfaction, well-being, joy? Like what would increase that for you? Most of us would know the right like church answer is Jesus, but like in our hearts we would say probably a little bit more money, if I'm honest. Right? The notorious B.I.G. said this, mo money, mo problems. Mo money, mo problems. The point is that money promises us things, but it never delivers on it, right? Because we always just need a little bit more. And I want you to know that Jesus is coming to rescue us. He's our Savior. Savior's safe. And he's coming to rescue us from misplaced devotion. His ways, they release us to become the generous people that we always wanted to be. Right? He frees us from fixating on the having or the not having. He corrects our vision. He calls us to invest in what is lasting, and it truly sets us free. This is the plan of Jesus for your discipleship when it comes to your economics. I was reminded of this name that you probably heard a lot of. Some of you are younger than me. I mean, you're much younger than me. But the name is Lance Armstrong. Does anybody remember Lance Armstrong? A few of you? Yeah, Lance. He was the picture of success. He was a 7-time Tour de France champion. He was a cancer survivor. He was a global hero, and he seemed unstoppable. But beneath the glory was something darker. An obsession with winning at any cost. He lied, cheated, and he hurt people to protect his image and his achievements. When the truth came out, everything that he treasured, fame, titles, admiration, all those things crumbled for him in full public view. In the end, the thing that he built his life on actually failed him. His treasure was built on something that could not last. And this is the picture that Jesus paints for us. So what do we do with this? Like, how do we become more generous? How do we accumulate the treasure that will last? I just want to close with 2 things. There's the first thing. Consider your practices. At the end of the sermon, Jesus says, whoever hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a man who built his house on a rock. So he's not trying to just show us like, that's a cool idea, Jesus. No. He's talking about what we do. Consider our practices. How are you doing with generosity? Is lifestyle creep robbing you of the ability to become generous? Has greed snuck into your heart and you're seeing it like you could trace it in your finances? Here's what I've learned to do as a young man, and Casey and I have just stuck to it. When we get paid on payday, the first thing that we do is we give away the first 10% of our money. First thing we do. And here's why. I can't spend it if it's not there, right? Like my lifestyle can't creep up and take it and be at the end and be like, oh, bummer, I was going to give some money to the church, but, it's gone. No, we prioritized it in our practice so that we knew, hey, we're going to be generous and we're going to adjust our lifestyle to our generosity and not the other way around, okay? Consider your practice. Here's the second thing, and this is the thing that will drive your practice. Consider your vision. What's your vision? Like, what do you see when it comes to your finances? What do you see when it comes to, like, the story of your life? And, like, how do you want it to go? What story do you want to be told about you? Man, he was so generous. She was so generous. What's your vision? And think through what Jesus said. Whatever you focus on, whatever you fixate on, you're going to value. And whatever you value, you're going to treasure. You're going to invest in that thing. And wherever you invest, that's where your heart's going to be. And then we just reverse engineer. Okay, if I want my heart to be right there in the middle of God's generosity, I'm going to have to fixate on Him. I have to fixate on Him. And I just want to remind you that when Jesus went to the cross for you, He had one vision. It was His bride. It was His people, His church. It was you. It was me. And He paid the highest price for you because He values you so much. And in His vision, it released generosity. And if we could get the heart of Jesus in us, if He becomes the one thing of my life, the thing I value most, then I will arrange all the other stuff of my life around that one value. And so I want to call us to look at Jesus, to get a vision for Him, to set your vision on treasuring Jesus above all things, to let your vision of Him reorder the stuff of your life so that you can live freely and open-handedly. Let's pray together.